I'm in my garden this morning. It's pretty blustery, but I've got a really nice rosehip bush and I'm just gonna start to take some. It's not October yet, and really you're supposed to, according to the old books, wait till the first frost. But with the climate being the way it is these days, it's probably a bit of outdated information. You want to get the rosehips when they are just slightly squishy. So the reason that you normally wait for the frost is because the frost would sweeten them a little bit, but all you have to do if you want them slightly sweeter is just pop them in the freezer, and then you can defrost them and use them for what you like, and they'll be that tiny bit sweeter because of fake frost. So let's go and see what I've got. My house is an absolute building site at the minute. We're doing an extension, but behind all these scaffolding boards, look, there's the new bit just showing above them. Behind all the hello, yes, I'm getting rosehips. I won't be a minute. Is my rosehip bush, and there are absolutely loads of them on here, amongst all the bits and bobs of rubbish. But I'm going to start to take them off because they are definitely ready. Yes. So, when you're picking your roships, these ones are perfect. Look, nice and glossy, still quite firm but slightly soft. So you can just snip across there really easily, and all four will pop off. Now, this one here, leave that one to nature. Let that one do its thing. Any that look a bit too squishy, that they're just squish in your hand like a tomato, leave them for the birds or pop them on the floor to seed for some other year. You want the nice glossy red ones that aren't too squished up. Got to just show you this cat. She's never far away from me. She sat in between the scaffolding boards on some insulation while I do this. So be careful when you're picking the rosehips because they are very spiky. I don't wear gloves because I like to feel my way around. If you do get hooked, you have to kind of unhook it. It's not just like a in-out thorn, it's got a bit of a hook on it, so don't just pull, unhook your finger. But anything with thorns is extra powerful in the herbal world, so anything that is thorny is very protective to both the physical body and the emotional body. So look after your thorny bushes and your thorny plants, like your hawthorns and your sloes, all very, very good, very protective for you. So things that I will be doing with these rosehips are, I'm going to dry some in my dehydrator. You can probably dry them in other ways. I know my mum's got a Rayburn range where she can do hers in that, but I will be using my dehydrator, and you may well have heard of them being referred to as caveman's candy. It's because when they're dry, they go extraordinarily sweet, especially if they have had the frost, or if you have given them a bit of a blast in the freezer first of all. So they would have been a nice treat back in the olden days when they didn't have anything particularly sweet, and totally full of goodness, because the vitamin C in a rosehip is so extraordinarily high. Sorry, I keep looking at the wrong end of the camera. More potent and more concentrated than an orange. Hey puss, it's only me. I've got a feeling I might be pounced on in a minute. She's still up there. So yeah, some people say 20 times stronger than an orange. So the concentration of vitamin C of 20 oranges in one rosehip. I'm not sure about that exactly, but either way, it's the most concentrate of vitamin C in anything that we have in England. So make the most of them. Other things that I'm going to be doing, I will be making some tinctures, some syrups. I will be drying them for teas, and Well, I might even experiment with putting them in some gin this year, because I have this bush and another bush, and there's loads out there, so you might as well grab as many as you can. Again, pick them responsibly, set yourself a section that you think is an acceptable amount to take from that particular bush, leave in at least 2/3 for the wildlife, because remember, they do survive on it over the winter. So enjoy, but pick responsibly. Something else nice that you can do if you do have a dehydrator, or you could just dry it upside down. If you dry them on a nice stem, they go like a really rich dark red, and they are really nice to use in wreaths. So I'm making an autumn wreath at the minute, so I'm going to keep some on the stems to put in the dryer so that I can thread it and wire it and make it into a nice autumn wreath. You know, you might be tempted to prune your bush back while you're taking these, but leave it. I know it's tempting to tidy up your garden while it's a bit milder, but the insects, the spiders, who, remember, have got to cocoon up their babies ready for the winter, they need as much coverage and dead foliage as possible. So if at all possible, wait till just before early spring to do your garden tidy. I know it's really annoying to look at all this dead stuff everywhere, but if you can, or just leave a little section of it, then leave it, because the insects will really appreciate you for doing that. And the other reason you wouldn't really want to start pruning things back at this moment is because whilst everything's still green and has the nutrients within the stem, then if you take that down, then you're taking that away from the root. So you want all the goodness and the sap to go back down into the root at this time of year. So if you are going to have a trim, then just make sure everything looks brown and pretty dead before you cut it. Here's my girls, the poor little grey bantam. I don't know if you can see, but the front of her tummy is completely bare. She's just having her autumn molt, which they all will be. And she looks absolutely terrible down there, like a bald little chicken. But at least it's still quite mild. There's been other years when it's happened when it's already very cold. So this is the field at the back of my garden, and it's been absolutely covered in ragwort this year, which is a little bit controversial as there's horses all around us. But you know what? It's looked absolutely glorious, and the bees must have just been loving it. This whole field was just yellow. But now it's gone to seed, and I'm really hoping that the seeds blow the opposite direction, because last year I had loads of it in the garden that I had to get rid of. So these rosehips on this second bush, mostly no good. They're all too squishy. It's been in the sun, this one. So things do ripen quicker when they're in the sun. But I just wanted to show you the hawthorns behind them, because they are massive. Here we have my absolutely favourite English tree, the magical hawthorn, Craigus. And the berries here, sorry if it's a bit wobbly, it's a bit blowy, I'm balancing here, are really big. Look at those. I'm going to be getting these rosehips on the go. These are still nice and firm, but it won't be long till they start to squish. So I'm going to have to work quickly to get these rosehips done and then be back out for the haws. Laid out in my dehydrator. These are the ones I'm going to make with wreaths. And these are the others. I've had to pick out a fair few squishy ones that travelled in, and there's loads of little tiny baby spiders everywhere crawling around on my sofa now. These are what I've just taken out the dehydrator. These bananas were virgin on black, and they are just so nice when they're done in the dehydrator. Get quite toffee-esque. And this is lemon peel, which you can use in teas and recipes, so nothing goes to waste. So there we are. So I will expect these to take the minimum of 24 hours, and I've got it on 50 degrees at the minute. So I'm going to have a check on that and see how they're getting on, and spread them out again in a little while. I've just got my notes here of all things to do with rose hips, so I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the plant, where you can find it, what it's good for, its history, things you can make, and the energetics of the plant. So first of all, its name. Rose hips come from the dog rose, or Rosa canina, and there's a little bit of confusion about where that name dog rose came from. Some say that the root is strong enough to protect you from the bite of a mad dog, or a rabid dog, I suppose. And then a more probable name derivative is from, actually it wasn't ever dog, it was dag, for dagger, because of the thorns and the serrated edges of the leaves. So next I'll tell you about its properties. So I'm just going to read these out. So it's an astringent, a stomach strengthener. It's good if you have diarrhea or dysentery. It's good for excess thirst, coughs and colds and flus and asthma. It can help eliminate stones, so your kidney stones, gallstones, all those kind of stones. Good for heart palpitations and arrhythmias. It's very good, obviously, for your immune system, which is the main reason that I go out and collect them, so that I can keep our family and my little girl really strong through the winter months. It's an eliminator, so it helps you get rid of stuff that you don't want in your body. It's very cooling, so not only for temperatures, but cooling in herbal terms means if you've got something very angry that you need to calm down, so skin rashes or infections, that sort of thing. So it's very good for eczema. It's very good for any kind of problems or irritations with the skin. It's also really good for your skin, to keep it nice and soft and elasticated and smooth. It's mainly because of that high vitamin C content, really helps with collagen, and also it's so full of antioxidants, which will pull those out of your skin. But those two things are also really good for the rest of your body, because it's really good for people with joint problems because of the high vitamin C content. It would be a good supplement to use. Vitamin C is so needed for a healthy production of collagen. So if you have got poor joints, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where your collagen is slightly defective, or you have osteoporosis, anything basically where you need help with your joints, rosehip is a great supplement to get involved in, because of how it helps you build more strong and healthy collagen. And where did I get to? Cooling. It's good for rashes, good for skin, stretch marks, good for stretch marks. It also is a really good tonic for the nervous system, so it can help with depression and lifting mood and anxiety, and just give you a bit of a calmer way about yourself. It's full of vitamins C, which I'll come back to in a minute, but also vitamins A, B, K, selenium and manganese. And going back to the bit about the vitamin C, the Ministry of Defence in England did lots of studies on rose hips during the war, because of the obvious problems with rationing food. Oranges were in really short supply, so they started to look for immune boosting foods in the wild, and the Ministry of Defence found that the rose hips were 20 times, they said at the time, 20 times more potent in vitamin C than an orange. And so they set up this scheme where at the first year they did it, they got lots of children to go out around the all around the wild gathering all the rose hips, and they gave them a small amount of money for doing that, and they made a rose hip syrup. And over the years during the war, it became more of a commercial venture. More people started getting involved, and the children were probably let off collecting it. And the syrups got made up and given out on ration to mothers with young children. And you could buy it as well from the chemists, but it stayed in circulation in the chemists and such like shops until the 60s or the 70s. It was very easy to get rosehip syrup. Now you've either got to make it yourself or try and find it somewhere, but I have the Ministry of Defence's recipe for the rosehip syrup. It's very easy to obtain. It's on the internet. You should have a go at it. So it has proper research into it from way back. And now there's even talk that it could be between 20 and 40 times more potent than an orange. So things you can make with rosehips are tea, syrup, which we just talked about, vinegars. You can make it into a powder if you dry them and then grind the powder up. Ketchup. There's a recipe that you can use rosehips with the haws from the hawthorn tree. Make quite a tasty ketchup. Haven't done that one myself, but maybe one day. You can make your own rosehip oils by boiling them up and combining with a carrier oil. You can make liqueurs and jams. Now, the rosehips do come with a warning. Although the actual product is very good for you, inside the skin are pips, little seeds that you don't want to eat, and also there's teeny tiny fine little hairs that back in the olden days, my dad can remember doing this, they used to take them out and drop them down people's backs as itching powder. So they're very irritating for the digestive tract. You don't really want those inside you. They won't poison you or anything like that. Very irritating though. So you have to look into, do your own research and look into how to remove the hairs and the pips and how to just prepare the rosehip. If I get time, I'll do a video, but I probably won't be able to do that this year because we're still upside down here and kitchenless. So do your research. Make sure you get those hairs and those seeds out. So the energetics then, it has a very softening action on the heart. Roses are generally known as the flower of love and affection, but mainly they're for loving yourself, accepting everything that you find difficult to accept about yourself. So it's very protective, like I mentioned before, protective not only for the physical body, but for the emotions, and that fits in nicely with the facts about it being very good for your nervous system. It also encourages you to wear your thorns and don't self-sacrifice yourself too much and let everybody take advantage of you. Don't take any rubbish from people. Stand up for yourself when necessary. If you are often better at loving others than yourself, you're encouraged to experiment with rose in general, as well as rose hips, and stop noticing the imperfections about yourself and focus on the good. So loads of good things you can do. Have a look into those methods of how to do certain things, like the rosehip oil if you're interested in your skincare, and definitely try a syrup because that is tasty. Your kids will like it. It's sweet and it's nice, and it's really good for you. A spoonful of that every day as a child, something to enjoy and also building your immune system up. And the tea is really nice too. So me personally, I'm going to do the tea, the syrup, I'm going to make some face oil. That will probably be it this year, seeing as I'm kitchenless. Like I say, I might put some in a liqueur and have a go at that. But do get out there and enjoy collecting rosehips.